Welcome everyone to the long-anticipated Deadpool and Wolverine audio commentary, presented to you today by me, Dean. This is On the Brink. Welcome to the MCU, and we welcome Deadpool to the MCU also, although we are joining at a bit of a low point, as he does point out later in the film. Your little cinematic universe is about to change forever. Thank you all for tuning in today. A quick word of warning to our audience members listening in. There is a little bit of unsavory language ahead, although I'm doing my best to avoid it. This is a Deadpool film, and I really can't avoid that too much. A Deadpool and Wolverine team-up is something that was highly anticipated, and it broke the internet when the trailer dropped. It is now my pleasure to break down this film for you that was released in summer of 2024. Now we're about to begin the commentary, and I'd like you to listen along as you watch. This is how I structure my commentaries, is that you've got the movie playing and that you've got my YouTube video playing on your phone or something. Before we dive into the film, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me and go down in the comments and tell me who you think would win, Deadpool or Wolverine, and put a little colored heart next to it, red or yellow. I myself am a longtime fan of Marvel films. The first one I ever saw was Thor: The Dark World on the big screen. I walked in with no clue what I was looking at. I hadn't even seen a Spider-Man film before. But this was something that changed my life, and I've really enjoyed learning more about the Marvel Universe in the years following. And though I don't consider myself a Marvel expert, I've really enjoyed learning about the lore and all of the inside jokes and Easter eggs as I've gone through this commentary. I've really looked forward to sharing what I've found with you. So without further ado, let's start the film. You can of course support Deadpool and Wolverine by watching it on Disney Plus or some other form of streaming like Movies Anywhere. But also grab your DVD or Blu-ray if you need to do that. I will start the film in 1, 2, 3. The first things we see are the opening titles for Marvel, of course. Deadpool and Wolverine is the 34th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's been added to the opening Marvel logo here. And of course, we've got his signature touch of fourth wall breaking, singing along to the Marvel theme. This is the very first R-rated film under the Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures banner and the MCU. If you look closely in the credits, you can see that Deadpool is edited to be dodging Captain America's shield. It's a scene from the first Deadpool film. An interesting side note, you can also see the 3 Marvels women that are added to the logo as well. You can also see a scene later in the film as Deadpool beckons Logan towards him into the back of the Honda Odyssey. The logo also turns red and yellow, signifying Deadpool and Wolverine's colors. Between the release of Deadpool 2 and Deadpool and Wolverine, Disney purchased Fox, so that's a big thing that they address in the film, and the fourth wall breaks. The way that affected Marvel was that it was brought in along with the Fox assets, which included X-Men and Deadpool. They do make a lot of references to Logan here, the film and the character throughout, and they open the scene here in Logan's grave in North Dakota. It calls right back to the tail end of the film Logan, and it's hilarious that Deadpool is now here desecrating the grave and completely undoing the events of the last film. The filmmakers wanted a movie that would be filled with Easter egg delights for Marvel fans who know the MCU deeply, and they wanted a movie that would be equally satisfying to people who were coming to Deadpool and Wolverine new and cold without prior knowledge, according to the director Sean Levy. At the time of the release of Logan, Hugh Jackman announced his retirement from playing Wolverine. Then, in 2022, he and Ryan Reynolds had an announcement video stating that he would be back for a third Deadpool film. Director Sean Levy loved the ending scenes of the film Logan, especially when his grave is marked by the cross and is turned on its edge by Laura to be changed to an X. He felt that was one of the most perfect ways to end a film, and even called up James Mangold to congratulate him and asked him about the film over a lunch. They knew that, according to the director, Deadpool is known for his audacity and submersiveness, so he really wanted to take that iconic shot from Logan and have that be the beginning point of Deadpool and Wolverine, where he's able to play off of that and do a take on it. The song that plays, Only You and You Alone, for 1955 is a song that plays while Deadpool is digging up this grave, and it's by The Platters. The lead vocals from A&B American singer Tony Williams, and it's a single of their first self-titled album, The Platters. You can see a I Like Me mug next to Deadpool, which later you'll see he snagged from the TVA clerk that he talks to in the cubicle below the platform he's standing on. The phrase, I Like Me, is from the movie Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. It's a line from John Candy that's delivered in that film, and that film's a really, really pivotal influence on this film, oddly enough. We'll find some more references to that later. The opening scene here with Logan's grave was a set, and it's actually not in snow, but they dressed it up to make it look incredible. The soundtrack for this film was put together piece by piece from a playlist that Ryan Reynolds had for years and that he shared a love for with director Shawn Levy. The reference to the bones, of course, there is a reference to his wife, Blake Lively, who starred in Gossip Girl. This whole idea for the opening scene where he's fighting off the TVA agents with the bones of Logan is all from the brain of Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds' stunt double Alex Keskovich choreographed the Deadpool dancing and action scenes here and performed it all himself. The TVA agents previously appeared here in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the show Loki. They are a little different looking here, though, and that is to signify that they work for Paradox, who is a little bit more of a Black Ops team. As they call out to Wade, they mention his full name, which is Wade Winston Wilson. So it's just a funny little thing. His initials are WWW. Incredible special effects and stunts here. Deadpool is known, of course, for having his opening credits be very lavish and spectacular with lots of funny bits. Each time one of the TVA soldiers is killed, there's a new name, of course, that you can see flash on the screen. First being Shawn Levy, the director. He and Ryan Reynolds have had a really great relationship, and they work together great on films. The first one I believe they worked on together was Free Guy, followed by The Atom Project. Deadpool and Wolverine is the third Deadpool movie, and it's also the third film that Ryan Reynolds and Shawn Levy have worked on together. If you look really close at the skull that Deadpool throws of Logan to the TVA agent, you can see clearly, if you pause it probably, that it's got the number 24601 from Les Mis imprinted on it. The Bye 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 sequence song here is so popular. The NSYNC band even changed the name of their music video upload on YouTube to Official Video from Deadpool and Wolverine. The song also popped up back in the film X2, where it played on the radio and made Logan so annoyed. And in a way, this is kind of a funny throwback to that, where it's an annoying song towards Logan, even though he's dead. Ryan Reynolds revealed that Deadpool and Wolverine was originally going to be called Deadpool and Friend. However, they decided to change the title the day before the first trailer was released, after there was a lot of negative feedback and backlash from the proposed title leak from the fans. Ryan Reynolds claimed that Disney and Marvel had already shipped 9,000 7-foot-tall standees to theaters with the old title, but oh well. Here we are with Deadpool throwing out the signature Wolverine move here. As we travel into Deadpool's butt, we are shipped back into the past to March 14th, 2018, through this series of scenes from the previous Deadpool films using Cable's time travel device to go all the way back to Happy Hogan's office. After a quick brief look at all those scenes from Deadpool 2 with the time travel element, we've got our first major scene here that takes place with Happy Hogan. It takes place between the Age of Ultron film and Infinity War. This is a really fun scene that takes a look at the past, but we also get a sense of where Wade's mind is currently. He really wants to matter, and he really wants to impress his girlfriend Vanessa and show her that he's capable of doing something worthwhile and not just being a merc with a mouth. In the scene Jon Favreau plays, Happy Hogan didn't just play Happy. He also brought in his filmmaking and storytelling expertise to really help the film. Ryan and Sean hone in on what Deadpool's wish is to truly flesh out what Wade really wants. And the whole scene really worked well. They had various forms of who Deadpool would be speaking with. They had bounced around ideas like Tony Stark himself or perhaps even Nick Fury. But they decided that since Happy Hogan is a hero but not quite full superhero like Deadpool, that he would be a perfect person to chat with. John just really offered them a lot of great insight. Their production designer, Ray Chan, was the man who gathered Jon Favreau's office. It's filled with Easter eggs. The original face of Ultron is in the display case. And some other Easter eggs are Captain America's prototype shield from Iron Man 2. There's a Forbes magazine with Pepper Potts on the cover that we see in Iron Man 3. Captain America collector cards are behind Happy. And they're the same ones that Nick Fury used in the Avengers. Like same type, I should say. Iron Man Mark II helmet can be seen. There's the swinging sticks piece that sits on Pepper Potts' desk in Iron Man 2 that Iron Man gets very annoyed with. There's a Chinese terracotta head behind Happy, which is a reference to Iron Man 3 and his dealings with the Mandarin. And then on the sidewall shelf, there's also a Mobius strip, which was a shape that became an inspiration for Tony Stark during Endgame in order for them to go back in time to save the world from Thanos. There's also Iron Man's first arc reactor. There's a brief glimpse at a photo of Tony Stark and Peter Parker, with Peter Parker covered because he's a Sony Marvel character, and that would have needed clearance to be shown. He's covered up by the toy Iron Man helmet, which was the same toy helmet that Kid Peter wore at the Stark Expo. Iron Man Mark V briefcase from Iron Man 2 also makes an appearance. There's a broken Iron Man helmet from Avengers Age of Ultron, and there's a Stark Expo poster on the wall from 1954. Wade mentions his sadly perished members of the X-Force in this scene, which were previously seen in Deadpool 2. The X-Force consisting of members Domino, Shatterstar, Peter, Vanisher, Bedlam, and Zeitgeist, and of course led by Deadpool and Cable. The unfortunate events of that day were of course due to a slight wind advisory that was in effect. Screenwriter Rhett Reese said that there were plans for all 6 original Avengers to appear in the scene where Wade asks to join the team, which would have involved Wade berating each one of them after being rejected. Peter was also supposed to appear in this scene and casually lift Mjolnir in the background. Ryan Reynolds' Facebook shared about Jon Favreau that John didn't just jump into Deadpool and Wolverine for a quick one-night stand as Happy Hogan. He gave us the 360-degree vision of an innovator, foundational Marvel forefather, and ace storyteller. And if I have his number right, he is wildly uncomfortable with everything I'm writing in this post. But fuck it. I got what I needed out of him, so he's going to drink the medicine. One of the many things I love about playing Deadpool is that he's a fan. Like me, Deadpool loves Marvel, so working with John, who is one of the original creatives who built an empire, was somehow better than sitting with one of my heroes. And almost better than being cradled in Thor's powerful arms while he sobs like a fucking motherless child who lost his binky in a house fire. John is one of the greats. Yeah, the movie benefited from his incredible performance, but we got something more important: his generosity of time and energy to talk story and brainstorm larger themes and ideas. I'd drop everything to show up for this guy anytime or anywhere. Thank you, Jon Favreau. I'll be using a lot of Ryan Reynolds' Facebook posts coming up, and they're quite fun. As Wade says, when one door closes, your locker at work opens. This is Earth 10,005, 6 years later. That is typically signified as the Fox universe Earth. There's a book in Wade's locker called The Canadian Mounted, which is a dirty book, but it's a book that's been seen in Deadpool 1 and 2. Ryan Reynolds really looked up to John Candy, as I mentioned earlier, who was also seen reading that book in the movie Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Of course, we're reintroduced to Peter from the X-Force, who previously died from various acidic vomit, but was reintroduced into the timeline after Wade went back in time to save him. Would have been funny to see him lift Mjolnir, though. I would have liked to see him do that. Of course, Peter's trying to surprise Wade, and he'll take him into his birthday party here in a second, and we'll be reintroduced to a majority of the cast from Deadpool 1 and 2. Many of these cast members don't appear through the rest of the film, which is kind of a different route than a Deadpool film normally takes. Lots of scenes with Dopinder and Blind Al, etc. However, they've made it very clear that Deadpool and Wolverine is a distinctly different film from the originals, and really, it's not even a Deadpool 3. It's like its own standalone team-up film. So it's really fun that we do get to see the characters like Dopinder, Colossus, and Vanessa, etc., despite them not all being a major part of the film. An alternate version of the film that was considered was a frame-by-frame remake of Thor: The Dark World, which is kind of funny. That's the first one I've ever seen. And then up until the midway point, it would switch to Deadpool and Wolverine. Another idea was a $4 million Sundance Deadpool film that had no action, just a Deadpool suit. Another that was Deadpool's deleted scenes extravaganza, which would have shown Deadpool appearing in various past scenes of the MCU, implying he was there the whole time. Just, he got cut, ultimately, from the final films, of course. Leslie Uggams reprises her role as Blind Al, or Alditha, in this film. She's most known for her beginnings of her career in the 1950s. However, she's probably most known for portraying Kizzy in the television miniseries Roots from 1977. She also has won some awards for Broadway. You might notice that there is a character missing, Weasel. He's absent from this film entirely, and he was a huge part of the last two. There's something going around that T.J. Miller, the actor, and Ryan Reynolds unfortunately had some disagreements, and ultimately that's why he didn't agree to be part of the film. Ryan actually is constantly in a mask as he plays Wade and Deadpool because of the cancer skin that Wade Wilson has. And Ryan Reynolds has talked about how he prefers to wear the Deadpool mask because it's kind of hellish to be in the makeup as Wade Wilson. You can hear the song Angel of the Morning in the background by Marilee Rush and the Turnarounds, and also the song Slash by Stray Kids, which is a Korean band. Being a Disney acquisition, it was interesting to have a conversation with Kevin Feige of Marvel Studios, he's the president, as to what would be allowed or not in a Deadpool film under Disney's banner. We get the cocaine references here that Blind Al mentions, and Wade reacts by saying, hey, that's the one thing Feige says is off limits. Kevin Feige actually never banned the usage of drugs in the film, and the way he put it, he said he was open to anything. I actually almost ran into Kevin Feige at the D23 Expo last fall. I was in line for lunch and he walked right by me. I could have tapped him on the shoulder, but I looked away too late. He already got away. We're about to head into the TVA, and there is a really cool detail about the TVA office. Production designer Ray Chan worked very hard to give the film a realistic look that was really grounded in things that didn't look too glossy or CGI. So this film really relies on that concept of filmmaking and really trying to make it look very realistic and, frankly, making it realistic. The crew purchased every bit of copper leaf in Europe that they could find to create the TVA control room scene in the film, and that is not an exaggeration. There was actually a shortage for a while. The whole course of the film changes as Wade blows that candle out. They threw a lot of interesting ideas for how to take the film, like I mentioned, and I think what they ultimately did was really cool. The whole film really tricks the audience into making it feel like that this is Deadpool's grand entrance into the MCU, and it is. And like how that looks and feels. What does he do as he explores it when it's actually more of just like a love letter to Fox and the Fox universe of films? And ultimately, that's what we really truly get to explore with this film. Lots of references to Disney, poking fun at them now that they're the granddaddy owners of Marvel. This set is even directly taken from Ray Chan's inspired art. We're about to move into the giant TVA set. As Wade and Paradox walk to Paradox's office in the original cut, there was a scene deleted where they're walking into an elevator. I think they should have kept that scene because it was so funny. There's a line that Wade says. He says something along the lines of, "Oh, please, I've seen Dr. Ant in the Quantum Verse of Madness," implying that there's just been so many movies and it's confusing. And as Paradox walks Wade through the TVA, it implies that he may have a purpose in the future that will help the Avengers. We get a little bit of a foreshadowing at his possible appearance in the future Avengers Doomsday and or Secret Wars, including a scene that Wade still has no idea about, where Deadpool and Thor are clutching each other and Thor is crying. I suppose we'll find out in the near future what that's all about. Here we see previous scenes from the Avengers in addition to the scene that I just mentioned, where he's clutching Thor. In a minute, we're going to see Wade fall gracefully down into a cubicle. Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls from 1998 plays. Iris comes from the name Iris Dement, who is a folk singer. Apparently, John Rzeznik got the name from a newspaper ad in the LA Weekly in a concert listing. He found the name beautiful and decided to use it for the title of the song. It's a great song and definitely one of my favorites from this soundtrack. It was originally written for the film City of Angels and was included on the album of theirs, Dizzy Up the Girl by the Goo Goo Dolls. It's known as a staple for the Goo Goo Dolls and remains one of the most popular singles ever to be released. As Wade says, "I am Marvel Jesus," he says that line in the same rhythm as Tony Stark's "I am Iron Man." The "Suck It Fox, I'm going to Disneyland" line is a clever one that references the Super Bowl players that traditionally say they're going to Disneyland when they win. And the funny thing is, Deadpool actually did go to Disneyland. He had his Storytime with Deadpool show attraction at Avengers Campus at Disney's California Adventure for a time. His lines are so clever. "Adorn me, Beardo." What a creepy adorner. Definitely a predator. We're about to soon be introduced to Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Hugh Jackman expressed that he wasn't a huge fan of comic books, but that he was very happy he was able to portray Logan as somebody that he didn't know from a comic book that he could just play as a regular character, that had no prior bias or preconception. He loves that character and was so happy to give Logan an extremely powerful and meaningful end in the movie Logan. But on August 14th, 2022, he was driving to the beach and he had a thought drop in his head. "What do you want to do, Hugh?" He decided that he wanted to call Ryan up and see what he thought of a Deadpool and Wolverine film. Ryan was about to do his last pitch to the executive producers at Disney and Marvel for a film. He knew that the team up was the one, and it was like the stars were aligning. He went in there, winged a pitch where Deadpool and Wolverine team up, and the film is now essentially what Ryan pitched that day. We're introduced to the concept of anchor beings here, and that's kind of important as we're about to go try to hunt down Wolverine. Who is the Wolverine anchor being? Or could be one, I suppose. Deadpool assumes he's the anchor being, but he's actually just Marvel Jesus. as you see Paradox react to this scene from Logan, he mouths the lines along with him. Now I know what it feels like. So that's what it feels like, I mean. Implying Paradox probably can't die and kind of wishes he could sometimes. Paradox explains a lot of exposition here. It's kind of hard to add more to it, but the pruning concept will lead ultimately one to the void, where we've previously been in Loki, the TV show on Disney Plus. The void is a collection of a lot of different beings and artifacts, and Deadpool has a lot of time spent there in this film. He shows Deadpool the Time Ripper, which will be a major plot point near at the end of the film. It's always a shock to see Wade's face, I suppose. Scrotum head. Deadpool's got some choices to make. He really does want to do something that matters, something that'll make a name for himself. But Paradox is making this quite complicated. He really wants to be an Avenger. And it seems more and more out of reach, especially after meeting with Happy Hogan and everything he's learning about anchor beings and time ripping. I love his katanas, and it's so neat to see him using them whenever he can. I wish that he used them more. Here's the Iris song that I talked about earlier, and of course the mug in the hand of the TVA agent that he swipes for the scene here that we're back to. We're back at the desecration of the sacred corpse of Logan. As he's fighting, he definitely has a lot more gore happening, lots of torture on these TVA agents. The one says, "Make it stop," and Deadpool says, "Mangold tried." It's a line that always makes me laugh. Of course, James Mangold was the director of Logan, implying, yeah, he tried to kill off Logan, tried to make it stop. This line here, "Get my country's name out of your fucking mouth," is a direct reference to when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars. Mission accomplished. Maximum effort. We're introduced to the scene where he's looking for all the Wolverine variants with "The Power of Love" by Huey Lewis and the News playing. It's also the song that plays in Back to the Future as Marty McFly travels across the Hill Valley. Ryan Reynolds describes Wolverine as a Clint Eastwood type character that is very careful with words, but expresses a lot of his emotions through violence. The short Wolverine here is comic accurate height. Hugh Jackman as Wolverine was always just a tiny bit controversial because of his towering height at 6'2". The Age of Apocalypse Wolverine seen here in the Fiery Alley is from the comics. His alias is Weapon X. The Wolverine in a casino is named Patch, and he's from a Wolverine comic from the 1980s. He's a James Bond-esque character. The Deadpool that gets shot by Wolverine sitting on an old-timing rustic porch is reminiscent of a Clint Eastwood and Harrison Ford type character, Old Man Logan from the comics. The Wolverine that's seen here hung crucified on a giant X from the Uncanny X-Men is number 251. The Wolverine here in a tan suit, as you guessed it, is also from the comics. He's done in the John Byrne style. This is an original rendering of how he looked in Marvel Comics when he pulls out his adamantium claws. And we see the reflection of the Hulk there in his claws, which is a reference to the cover of The Incredible Hulk from Todd McFarlane, number 340. As Deadpool yells at Hulk to stay away, you dull creature, and Marvel Jesus, that's a reference to Loki from the Avengers speaking to Hulk in the same way, just before he smashes Loki around like a rag doll. Here, of course, we've got Henry Cavill as the Cavalrine, which is a reference to when he potentially was going to do this, but turned it down for playing Superman, and ultimately DC decided they're going to scrap that whole thing anyway, so that put Henry Cavill in quite a conundrum. He was going to play Wolverine in some form. I don't know if it was for a spin-off series or what, but that This Is It by Huey Lewis and the News plays in the background when Deadpool finds his Wolverine, which is the worst one. Kevin Feige served as an associate producer on X-Men from the year 2000 and was present at Hugh Jackman's original audition for Wolverine. Kevin Feige said, "For Jackman and for me, I think for all of the fans of Marvel, it's unbelievable what has happened in 23 years. To have Hugh come back is incredible. For me personally, that is where I started. It was his first on-set audition, and he flew up to Toronto to do a read with Anna Paquin. I remember sitting behind the camera, well behind the camera, at his audition. It's a very full circle thing having him come back in this new Deadpool film," close quote. Hugh Jackman is so great. His acting is phenomenal. Audiences are accustomed to long run times. No, they are not. All the people that walked out of Return of the King, for example. Only took 20 fucking years reference to Logan in his yellow suit. Of course, that's the way he looked in the comics. The original X-Men films that came out in the early 2000s were hot off the presses of previous action film successes like The Matrix. And those type of movies used a lot of black leather. Kevin Feige explained that this is the reason why the X-Men donned the black leather as opposed to the colorful costumes, because that's just what looked cool at the time. They felt that it might look a little silly to have the comic accurate costumes. And in fact, I mean, like I said, Hugh Jackman really felt like he didn't know the comics, and it was neat for him to be able to step into a comic book role as if he's just playing a normal action role. But it's really neat that now he's able to fully wear the costume. On your left, sweet cheeks, is a nod to Captain America's second film, where Falcon runs by Steve Rogers as he's running around the Capitol. The official art book for Deadpool and Wolverine reveals a number of scrapped Wolverine variants Wade could have encountered, including Baby Wolverine, a Wolverine who had his adamantium stripped from his body by Magneto, Ultimate Wolverine, a Wolverine wearing the same black leather from the original X-Men trilogy, and most prominently a variant of Logan that became the Hulk. We welcome also Logan to the MCU, which, yes, again, is kind of a low point. There's been a few films that have been really good. Like, I love the Spider-Man films, but yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania was a little bad, and there's just been a few floppy ones. But I hope that we're on a good upcoming series of films now with some of the Avengers coming, and yeah, we'll see what happens. Now, Deadpool and Wolverine are headed to the Void. They filmed the Void at Pitstone Quarry. Sean Levy mentions, he's the director, of course, mentions how the film feels very anthemic to have Deadpool and Wolverine together in a film, but also how much they worked to also root it in the real world by shooting as much as they could on location and using as little CGI as possible. To the left of Deadpool as he wakes up on the ground of the Void is a copy of Secret Wars number 5 by Jonathan Hickman, 2015. This is, of course, a foreshadowing of things to come in the Avengers universe. Next to the comic book cover is a bottle of Pingrache, I'm not sure how to say that. It's a juice from a Brazilian plant where Edward Norton's Bruce Banner worked in the 2008 Incredible Hulk film. Among the rubble is also Toronto's CN Tower, which is obviously a Canadian reference, which Ryan Reynolds uses a lot. Director Sean Levy is also a fellow Canadian. There's a lot of pieces of gunk and junk in this film. There's also a SHIELD helicarrier. These have been seen in various Marvel films, but this could even be the one that Wade fought Francis on in the original Deadpool film. There's also a Chitauri Leviathan. That's a skeleton likely from the first Avengers film from the Battle of New York. Also, the Golden Gate Bridge, which was a huge piece of X-Men The Last Stand when it was moved by Magneto. The 20th Century Fox logo is easily one of the most recognizable pieces here in the Void. It's interesting how it's buried with the X pointed out. Eagle-eyed fans might remember that the X in the 20th Century Fox would often be left glowing for a couple seconds after the logo went black in the previous X-Men films. It might be a nod to that. Its inclusion here in the Void does suggest that the erosion of the 20th Century Fox Marvel canon into the past has begun. And Deadpool is here to do his best to honor it and infuse some life back into it where possible with Wolverine and some characters that are upcoming later in the Avengers universe. There was actually some paparazzi that almost tried to get some spoilers from this filming location. What the filmmakers ended up doing is getting the best of them by dropping a couple photos on Instagram of Wolverine in his suit. I remember when those were posted, and it's fun to see the backstory of why that was done. It's just so that they could get a little ahead of the paparazzi there and spoil their own movie. I love that. AC/DC's Hell's Bells plays here as Deadpool and Wolverine fight. There's this Tobey Maguire Spider-Man move that Flash used on Spider-Man in the original Spider-Man film that now Wolverine uses on Deadpool here, and it's so funny to see that. Definitely a huge scene for comic book fans the world over here. Again, who would win? Let me know in the comments. Soon we're going to have some mercenaries come up to approach them. As they do, one of the mercenaries comes up driving a Fantastic Four vehicle. Of course, we have a mysterious masked figure here that turns out to be Johnny Storm from the Fantastic Four. But of course, it's a really, really fun fake out that Deadpool thinks it's Captain America, and as probably the audience does too, I remember feeling like, oh my gosh, they put Captain America in this? But nope. Johnny Storm. Feels very Mad Max, and Deadpool really hones in on that fun homage to the Mad Max series. One of the funniest lines coming up was when he mentions Furiosa. Oh, it makes me laugh every time. One of the vehicles also was a V16 coupe that pulled up, which was reminiscent of Red Skull's vehicle that appears in Captain America, the First Avenger. However, this one's patterned after Tony Stark's Ford Roadster flame pattern and has a tiny little Iron Man hood ornament instead of a Hydra one. You can see the Stephen Grant cupcake truck from Moon Knight back behind them. There's a tank that pulled by a bunch of motorcycles, including one motorcycle from the first Captain America. It's a Hydra motorcycle that Steve Rogers drives in an iconic scene. Flame on. Subverting expectations and making one of the greatest comeback references in all of Marvel. The way he constantly looks at the audience is so great. Poor Johnny. There's also a tank vehicle that has a magnet that's operated by the Canadarm. Canadarm? I think it's Canadarm. It's an attachment that originally paired with the NASA Columbia shuttle, and they fly their flag. That's an Avengers logo with an Anarchy A spray painted over it. It's really interesting because after they created that Anarchy logo flag for this film, it really caught fire, and even Kevin Feige was seen wearing a shirt that had that symbol on it at an event. Ray Park returns as Toad from X-Men, as well as the actor Tyler Mane, who played Sabretooth from the same film. He's a longtime antagonist of Wolverine. Another returning actor is Aaron Stanford, who returns as Pyro from X2 and X-Men The Last Stand. Ray Park, of course, is iconic for playing Darth Maul in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I actually didn't know that he was in Marvel at all. We're headed now to visit Cassandra Nova, who is the sister of none other than Professor X. Of course, in this little pod they're being carried in, the little prison cell, they are being recorded, and we'll see a little bit extra that we don't see now at the end of the credits. We learn Johnny Storm has quite the mouth. We're reintroduced to the concept of Eliath from Loki Season 1, Episode 5, as Deadpool points out. Makes an appearance here in the film, again, after also appearing in Loki. Chris Evans really is a great actor, and I think it's really cool to see him be able to do a couple different characters in the MCU. As we pull up to Cassandra's lair, we see an Ant-Man body. Of course, he's in giant form. It's a visual from the Old Man Logan comics, but in that case, it was Hank Pym, as opposed to here in the film, it's Scott Lang, as Scott Lang's Ant-Man. As far as I was able to find, there's no real explanation of why he's here in the void, but it appears that definitely Scott Lang has been pruned. Within Cassandra's lair here, we can see a lot of really neat recurring characters, such as Lady Deathstrike from X2. Jason Fleming returns as a teleporter from X-Men First Class. Also Juggernaut from X-Men The Last Stand, played by a new actor here. The tattooed Callisto, a member of the mutant group the Omega that were allied with Magneto. We also see a variant of Bullseye, a character who appeared in the 2003 Daredevil film. A Punisher villain, the Russian. There's also here a version of Psylocke. As I mentioned previously, Cassandra Nova is a sister to Charles Xavier. Cassandra's signature fingers in the skull effect that will appear is a staple of hers from the comics. Sharing a womb with Cassandra Nova does not sound comfy. Poor Charles. Lots of banter and more exposition here. Lots of exposition in Marvel films. We unfortunately get the death here of Johnny Storm. Cassandra Nova absolutely annihilates him and melts his flesh to the ground. Ryan Reynolds has a really touching Facebook post about Chris Evans' involvement in the film. Chris Evans came out to the set for only a couple days and really gave his all. On Ryan's Facebook, he said, "Thank you, Chris Evans. Some of the greatest moments I've ever experienced in a theater were authored by this guy. Some of the hardest laughing I've ever done came from listening to Chris tell a story about anything. And he got me again this year. Chris is one of those movie stars who's actually better than you hope he is. And people hold him to a crazy high standard. He's just the absolute best." Part of the movie's theme is saying goodbye, and one of the gifts of working on the film is that I got to say goodbye on my own terms. Seeing Johnny Storm, if only for a short while, was like seeing someone you miss come back from the dead in a dream. A visit way too brief and too lovely to be real. Goodbyes are hard. It was hard saying goodbye to Chris Evans as Johnny Storm, but at least we got to actually say it this time. On the other hand, it wouldn't have been necessary if he hadn't run his fat-ass mouth around Cassandra, or if she hadn't zip-zapped his skin, leaving his organs to splash crudely onto the ground while the soil greedily drank his blood. It was horrible. Close quote. There's lots of references, of course, to Hugh Jackman as a musical singer-star, Music Man being one of his great roles. Cassandra, of course, does use the finger trick, and we see into Deadpool's mind here. Later, we'll get to see Wolverine's. But here we get to see Deadpool's past with Vanessa, how they've broken up, unfortunately. And as they talk, they come to a crossroads where Vanessa wants him to find something to live for and find a reason to matter. Wade struggles to understand what he has to do in order to do that, and he thinks he really needs to become an Avenger to prove himself to her. That looks really painful. Where Charles Xavier has a lot of mind power, Cassandra mentions that she has to use her hands and get them dirty. after Wade and Vanessa are reunited in Deadpool 2, it's a bit sad to see them in such shambles in this film, but I suppose it wouldn't be a film without some sort of conflict or struggle. I think it's clever. Deadpool is such an unconventional hero that I can see how it could create some problems potentially that, he's not really up to the level of an Avenger, although he is great. Finding a reason to matter is a very basic human path and desire, and I think it's neat that we get to see such depth in a character as Wade Wilson. Of course, Cassandra tries to alter the memory and screw with Wade. That's a horrifying image. The woman you love telling you that. He knows it's not true as he reviews his past, and what he knows is the real Vanessa. She never said that. The intimacy coordinator is coming up. Of course, that's a person on a film set who controls sexual scenes and tries to make all parties feel comfortable. It's kind of just a funny, since she's invading his brain with her fingers. The end of Cassandra? Or no? That would be too easy. Eliath is on the way, so they better run. This device that Wolverine and Deadpool jump on, I've seen said is from a few different things, from a previous film and from a previous Deadpool video game. They land, and here's the sequence where we're starting to be introduced to Nice Pool, which is an unexpected character. I didn't expect to see that, but really begins the introduction to a lot of different variants of Deadpool. I'm telling Blake, of course, refers to Ryan's wife, Blake Lively, who's an actress as well. The diner scene here between Wade and Logan really sits there and makes you have a heart-to-heart with the two characters. You can really explore their characters in a slow spot here where it's like they're having like a road trip movie. Ryan and Sean really wanted to have that kind of road trip film, or like where two superheroes are sitting at a diner. That's their way of inserting some of that feeling into this film. And they really take a few minutes and try to bond. And, well, of course, Deadpool's mainly the one-sided party doing that. Wolverine doesn't care much about Deadpool, but third act flashback will be upcoming, of course. You're an anchor being. there seems to be some tension with Wolverine and the Avengers, almost as if the Avengers in his world are not so great, or they're mean to him. The diner scene is somewhat of a reference, again, to Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. They really wanted to make it feel like that type of film. And as you can see here, there's a plane, a train, and an automobile right there on the side, on the ground. The X-23 reference here leads us to our later meeting of her. As Deadpool mentions, Logan died trying to save her in his universe. Logan is a little miffed at him calling her Blind Al. And you'll see later, as they meet up with Blind Al near the end of the film, he calls her by her proper name because he's nervous of what Logan will think. Lady in Red, the song here, as Dogpool runs towards them, is by Chris DeBerg. Dogpool is Mary Poppins. She's played by a dog named Peggy in 2023. She won for Britain's Ugliest Dog. Peggy is a crossbreed between a pug and a Chinese crested dog known as a Puggies. Here, Nicepool references that Ladypool just had a baby, but you can't even tell. That's a reference to Blake Lively, who just gave birth to their second child in 2023. From Ryan Reynolds' Facebook, he says, Dogpool's tongue is an acquired taste. I recommend not acquiring it. Ryan Reynolds actually put salmon paste in his mouth to get Mary Poppins to lick his mouth intensely. Nicepool is a creation of Ryan Reynolds for this film. He's not a comic book character. And he's a complete 180 of what Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool is. As I've mentioned, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles a couple of times, there's a few different paradigms for this Deadpool and Wolverine story, including a classic road trip film like Midnight Run and 48 Hours. These are films that feature unlikely pairs that are thrust together on a journey who, in normal circumstances, don't choose to spend a single minute with each other on their own accord. There's a divorce joke at Hugh's expense. Some background on that is that he was married to Deborah Lee Furness from 1996 to September 2023, shortly before they started filming this. Nicepool introduces them to his Honda Odyssey, and it's funny, Sean Levy, the director, actually owns one. He mentions that it's nice car to carry your offspring around in if you have a lot of them. As they drive by the cornfield, you can see Thanos' Black Order Q ships that were used in Avengers Infinity War. The song we hear, of course, is Avril Lavigne singing I'm With You, one of the most beautiful songs from her discography. Deadpool mentions the Los Angeles Rams, which of course are the team that has the same yellow and blue that Wolverine has in his suit. You can see Deadpool also shooting Spider-Man webs from his fingers as they sit awkwardly. Here, as they argue, this is another scene inspired by a Planes, Trains, and Automobiles type film where they have an angry heart-to-heart in very close quarters. Deadpool pulls out his photograph of the most important 9 people in his life. This is a reference roughly to Back to the Future, where Marty McFly also has a photo of him and his siblings. Avengers Endgame had a playful dig at Back to the Future. So I'm really happy to see the Back to the Future references in high regard here and lovingly referenced in parody in this film. The truthful Timmy, blowjob queen of Saskatoon, is somebody that they reference as a special thanks later in the credits. Classic lines. Deadpool is amazing. The delivery of the lines from both of them in this scene, and frankly throughout the whole film, is so top-notch. You love to see Hugh Jackman in a role that really can let him shine, especially as he's acting with every fiber of his being, especially his eyes. You can see the pain in Wolverine's eyes, and basically all of the thoughts that he's thinking about and things that he's feeling. Of course, there's quite a few songs that played right there as Deadpool's head hits the radio. First one was the Greatest Showman theme. This is The Greatest Show that opens the film that Hugh Jackman starred in. And also You're the One I Want from Grease by John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John. Through this car fight scene, it's a total bloodbath, but they frame it almost like it's a sex scene, complete with the pan away to the coexist sticker at the end. I find that so funny, especially as Grease is playing, which is that type of movie. Very, very hormonal. Director Sean Levy explained that since there's going to be a lot of fights in a Deadpool and Wolverine team-up film, they really wanted to craft each fight to have its own language and own style, so that you obviously have the opening fight sequence with the TVA guards, which has its own very unique choreographed style, and language, really, that you had in an open world Void battle later, also. Then you had this Honda Odyssey closed quarters fight, and that would utilize a lot of different choreographed techniques. It was compared to being something like a knife fight in a phone booth. I think that's a really good explanation of that type of fight here. He really, paraphrasingly, director Sean Levy said that it's important not to bludgeon the audience with violence and in more of what has been seen before in the film, and really to make it as real as possible without CGI, and try to make the story unique and frame each fight into the new circumstances of what's happening in the movie. Makes it distinguished. And this fight with the Deadpool variants later in the film is the first time Deadpool and Wolverine team up and fight not each other. So the previous ones have been other fights or fighting each other, but the one near the end of the film is when they finally team up. Here in this Lair scene, we opened with Wanda Maximoff, the statue from Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness, on the ceiling. And here you can actually see Deadpool is laying on the giant jaw skeleton bed that the Hulk used in Thor Ragnarok. You can see a glass chess set that perhaps is from Charles Xavier. And we are introduced again to Elektra from the Fox Marvel universe, as well as Blade. Blade's appearance in this film is the longest gap a Marvel character has had between films, beating out Alfred Molina for his appearance in Spider-Man No Way Home as Dr. Octopus. We also get introduced to Gambit. A huge part of the reason Blade is such a prominent figure in this film is that he, without his film in 1998, would not have paved the path and there may not have been a Fox Marvel universe. He, therefore, may not have created the MCU ultimately without Blade. Blade's first films beginning in the late 90s and early 2000s were very, very popular. And Elektra had her first film in the early 2000s and also appeared in Daredevil. Gambit never got his own film. They'd been bouncing around ideas for Channing Tatum to play him for a long time. Sean Levy was actually part of the original crew that was discussing that Gambit film starring Channing Tatum that really never came to fruition. So this is a really, really neat once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for an actor and a character to finally appear on screen who never got his chance among all of these amazing characters such as Blade and Elektra that never got their ending. And of course, Gambit is described by Deadpool as the superhero version of Hawkeye, complete with close-up magic skills that'll be very helpful. From Ryan's Facebook, he says, Gambit is a guy Chan was born to play. His story is similar to my road on Deadpool, in that Chan spent a decade trying to put the most comic-accurate version of Gambit on the big screen. Remy LeBeau is grafted to his soul and needs to come out and deal. Some characters can only exist with a 1 in a billion pairing, and this is it. Gambit found his author in Chan. He's one of the coolest, smartest characters in comics and still largely unexplored. I want more, and from what I saw in theaters, you do too. Having the chance to say goodbye to some of these heroes is as important as having new characters to root for, and rooting for Gambit is easy. Rooting for Chan is even easier. He's one of the greatest, hardest working, kindest people in the entire industry. I couldn't be more thrilled to see Channing Tatum pull Gambit from the dead and bring him to life at the perfect time and perfect way. We're also introduced again to X-23, aka Laura from Logan. We learn that sadly Punisher, Quicksilver, and Daredevil all died at the hand of Cassandra. After he apologizes to Elektra, Jennifer Gardner as Elektra says, it's fine. And she's, of course, referring to when Ben Affleck played Daredevil. Of course, she and Ben had a divorce. It's really cool to see all these characters interact and have the banter that they do, especially with how emotionally fueled this whole scene is. Everybody's feeling something completely different, and Deadpool's just right in the middle stirring the pot. It's very, very clever writing, clever filmmaking, and just the impact I can imagine that having these legacy characters is coming into the film for the fans is so huge. Everybody loves Johnny. So the reason Juggernaut has his helmet is so that Professor X can't read his mind. And so what they're saying is they need to remove that from his head it's important to realize through the film, and especially in this scene, that because Logan feels shame and guilt that he carries from his world, he never takes off his yellow costume, because before he would never put it on. Now he'll never take it off in memory of his lost friends, the mutants. And according to director Sean Levy, it's no coincidence that by the end of the film, as he's in the Time Ripper with Deadpool in their sacrifice for all the world, that his shirt does in fact come off. And in fact, he becomes unburdened from his shame. So it's a really, really neat thing that he goes on a journey on through this film. It's cool to see Laura and this Wolverine connect across different universes, different dimensions. In Les Mis, there's a wonderful song that Hugh Jackman gets to sing, and here's part of it. They think that man is me, without a second glance. The stranger they have found, this man could be my chance. Why should I save his hide? Why should I right this wrong, when I have come so far and struggled for so long? If I speak, I am condemned. If I stay silent, I am damned. I am the master of hundreds of workers. They all look at me. Can I abandon them? How would they live if I am not free? If I speak, they are condemned. If I stay silent, I am damned. Who am I? Can I condemn this man to slavery? Pretend I do not feel his agony? This innocent who bears my face, who goes to judgment in my place. Who am I? I love the struggle that you can see in Wolverine's eyes. He's always got such emotion in those eyes. And of course, as they talk across dimensions, it's really poignant, this line, "You were always the wrong guy." Really sparks something within him. But of course, they can't avoid going back to Cassandra. Paradox's true intentions really start coming out as we continue on the film, speaking with Pyro here, conspiring with Cassandra. As we begin to hear Bring 'Em Out by T.I., we've seen a few Easter eggs along the way here as they drive. We saw a Guardians of the Galaxy ship. It looks like it appears to be the Milano, as well as an Asgardian golden city. I love the fourth wall break. Tilt up the blade. The Punisher reference is interesting. There's been 4 major Punishers: Dolph Lundgren, Thomas Jane, Ray Stevenson, and John Bernthal. Such an epic drive through the fire. And we have our epic conflicts with Cassandra's minions. lest we forget who's the king. So many iconic lines. Earlier when Blade says there's only one blade and Deadpool looks at the camera, it's so funny because there already has only been one Blade, but Marvel is actually in the works creating a new film. I love the little nod to Logan as Laura puts on her sunglasses that she got at the gas station. From Ryan Reynolds' Facebook, he talks about Daphne Keene. When Daphne Keene shows up in Deadpool and Wolverine, she shines her light towards the big beating heart of the movie. Daphne and Hugh standing next to each other is a pinch me moment. It stands on the shoulders of the Logan film, which is both a masterpiece and a giant. Sean Levy and I have been living with her every day in the edit and sound mix throughout a pretty relentless post-production. Even 3 days ago, as we went through the film's gag reel, I still get geeked out seeing her in those sunglasses. I'm so happy folks all around the world have been carried away to a better place by Daphne and Hugh Jackman and their unbelievable performances. Such epic action, a lot of comic book fans I'm sure have been waiting for here, and film fans alike from the Fox universe audiences. Of course, Wade and Logan go up to confront Cassandra. We'll nod back to his ice skating uphill lines in the original Blade. Now, take a look at this throne that Cassandra's sitting on. Does it look familiar? Of course, it comes from Thanos in previous Avengers films. And on top, of course, we see also a red cloak. Now, Cassandra alludes to this being a magician's cloak, and of course, we know it's Doctor Strange, or at least a variant of him that's been pruned. A lot of fighting, not a whole lot to really talk about other than basking in the glory of the lines and the action. Channing Tatum's fantastic. I really, really hope we get to see a film of his in the future. Woo! Sliced ankles does not look fun. Wade already had his moment with Cassandra where she delved into his brain. Now we're about to get Logan's. We'll get an eerie peek into the psyche of this Wolverine. Some memory flashbacks of some of the previous X-Men films. And he's walking through a graveyard of fallen mutants. It's very eerie. I love this scene, how it's set dressed and he's wearing very simple clothing. Really sets the mood to how he's feeling. The dark mist, the void. We hear the distant screamings of the fallen mutants. We learn that Wolverine went a little crazy and wouldn't stop killing the bad men and really unleashed a bad side of him that he didn't want to be unleashed. And then he also reveals that not just bad men were killed. He really desires to be the man that Charles wanted him to be, and he is getting his chance now with this team up. But I don't think he fully realizes it. He has this crossroads where he's got to decide what he wants to do. Will he follow Cassandra? And what does he do? Got the Juggernaut helmet on her. Most of the Marvel X-Men films were PG-13, except for the last one, Logan, which was rated R. Lots of key things happening here, but unfortunately not a whole lot to discuss. But why are you like this? Logan's redemption is beginning here as he realizes he can't kill Cassandra. It's against his character, and it's against what Charles Xavier would have wanted to do. Surprisingly heartfelt moment between them. I always do wonder if she truly believes him or not, though. Here's that amateur magician she refers to, Dr. Strange. She pulls out a sling ring, which Deadpool lovingly refers to as Marvel Sparkle Circle. Before Deadpool and Wolverine jump through this portal, we see her use the sling ring, and that sling ring has a piece of the reality and the time stone in the sides, implying that this portal she conjures up helps you travel between the reality and of time. These sling rings were introduced in the first Doctor Strange film, and they're typically used to, of course, travel the multiverse, but being able to travel through reality and time is also interesting. As they jump through this portal, we hear the beautiful song I'll Be Seeing You by Jimmy Durante. As Eliath is starting to close in on everybody, it's a little unsure what's going to happen to our heroes. Very, very cool sequence, but I do wish there was more to chat about. Love Blade's smile. It's awesome. Kevin Feige actually now refers to these as Marvel Sparkle Circles thanks to this movie. Now we're back to Earth. As Deadpool and Wolverine arrive back to the Drive Max, and we start moving into the exposition with Paradox and Cassandra, there's a lot of talking. Must have been cool for these kids to see two huge heroes. Here's a fun little Disney joke, making Hugh Jackman do this till he's 90. Where's the intimacy coordinator? Previously in the film, we had Peter and Wade walking through the street as they went up to Wade's birthday party. This whole area is directly underneath that street where they were walking, and we see here now that's where we're at. And this is ultimately where the Deadpool variants are going to come out to battle with Deadpool and Wolverine. Here we go, Cassandra coming up to chat with Paradox. Brutal. I'm sure this scene scared quite a few people. Terrifying stuff. What's really funny is the sling ring ends up in Pyro's head. Sorry, not Pyro's head. Paradox's head. Lots of exposition about the Time Ripper. Typical Marvel. That used to be something that drove me nuts about Marvel movies. I remember back in the Avengers, there were just so much talking. That whole movie is just nothing but talking. Great classic film, but as a teenager, I was kind of sitting there like, what am I missing? There's so much talking. And I understand it now, but typical Marvel. Here's B-15 from the Loki series. We're reintroduced to her here, and she's an awesome character. Uh-oh, Paradox has been caught. Being a Paradox, yeah, I'm sure that's a mess. Store that Wolverine and Deadpool walk out of that they got blasted into is Liefeld's. It's a very quick look at the sign as we pan down. Liefeld's Just Feet Orthopedic Solutions, which is a reference to the comic writer and artist Bob Liefeld, who was the co-creator of the Deadpool character and also an artist notorious for underdrawing feet. Peggy, Dogpool, Mary Poppins. This is another excerpt from Ryan's Facebook. She goes by many names. She's obviously a very special cast member. What many don't know is that she was also the intimacy coordinator on Deadpool and Wolverine, which was a complete disaster start to finish. What kind of intimacy coordinator says hello each morning by hurling her leathery 32-inch tongue into your throat and down to the bottom of your stomach? But I think the biggest problem is that she's a fucking dog. But I love this dog almost as much as she loves tasting me. She's a good girl, Dogpool. So funny. The song was Make Me Lose Control, sung by Eric Carmen. Not Eric Cartman, Eric Carmen. Here we are back with Nice Pool, and he's got such a funny fourth wall break of a line coming right here. The proposal. I remember the audience in my movie theater getting a huge laugh from that one. We've got a lot of Deadpool variants coming out now. I'm going to list off quite a few of them. Bear with me. It's just a long list. First off is Blake Lively here as Ladypool. There was a lot of controversy in the beginning as the film was coming out of who that would be. There's a lot of contenders, including Taylor Swift, as a possibility. There's also Cowboy Pool, played by none other than Matthew McConaughey, a.k.a. Deadpool the Kid from Earth. There's 1108 Headpool from Earth 2149, which is a Marvel Zombies universe. He's actually inflicted by a bite from the Silver Surfer, and he's voiced by Nathan Fillion. There's Kidpool from Earth 10330. Kidpool is a misfit from Xavier's school who steals 2 lightsabers from a danger room. He's not necessarily the same Kidpool, but it's just neat that Kidpool does appear in the comics. Kidpool is voiced by Inez Reynolds, the daughter of Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. Babypool is Olin Reynolds. There's a Harry Holland playing Harold Poole, and Harry Holland is the brother of Tom Holland, who plays Spider-Man. There's a Welsh Pool, female Deadpool 2099. Her name is Warda Wilson from Earth 16356. There's a Golden Age Deadpool, Zen Pool from the Avengers vs. X-Men 2014 comic. Samurai Deadpool, Scottish Deadpool. A Circus Master Deadpool kind of looks like Hugh Jackman as P.T. Barnum from The Greatest Showman. Dance Pool by professional dancer Nick Pauley. Pirate Pool, Fool Pool with a jester hat. Santa Pool, King Pool, Cupid Pool, Sherlock Pool. There's a lot of Deadpools. Hugh Jackman said that he really, really enjoyed putting on the costume, and especially coming up here, the cowl for Wolverine, and that he felt that Hugh Jackman fully disappeared into this role and Wolverine fully emerged. Ryan Reynolds remembers on Facebook, on August 14th, 2022, Hugh Jackman stopped his car to call me. He'd been having a crappy week, he'd had the flu, 2 flat tires, and some random idiot egged his house. But what happened next happened fast. He told me he wanted to bring the Wolverine back. Months later, he not only brought Wolvie back into the light, he'd at long last wear the iconic yellow suit. Sean Levy and I didn't talk about it much, but we were feeling a ton of pressure, worrying about how we would walk these characters into the MCU, worrying about all of our secret characters staying secret, along with so many moving parts. But when Hugh stepped onto set in that suit, everyone knew something special was happening. I remember thinking everything was going to be okay. I like his words there. Everything will be okay, though, except for when Nice Pool's concerned, he doesn't regenerate. Whoops. I like how the take they took where they blew up Nice Pool's head, 2 red dots go straight into Wade's mask, and it's like the perfect, like 1 in a million shot. Or it looks like he's got 2 pupils. We're coming up to the giant oneer shot that really, really took a lot of time and effort on the behalf of the entire crew. And it was something that Ryan really was passionate about doing. He had a vision for this scene that he wanted to use in an eventual film one day, and he finally got to do it, where there's just this huge montage with Madonna's song Like a Prayer. Oh, there's also a Canada Pool. He's the cool one in the black suit. This oneer shot is all practical stunt work, and it's really, really neat to behold. They were very proud of it, where the camera pans across the bus in one continuous shot. Here as Deadpool and Wolverine chop down the various variants of Deadpool. It's also called a motion control shot, one continuous action. The famous cowl comes on. From Ryan's Facebook, he says, I had Like a Prayer in my head for the third Deadpool film since 2017. Before Wolverine entered the chat, it was largely going to be the same single-shot motion control sequence I dreamed of, but my dance partner was originally Colossus, who would have died in the preceding scene, launching Deadpool into a state of pure rage and revenge, all set to Madonna's inspired and singular song, Like a Prayer. Obviously, Hugh joining changed destinies for the better, and Colossus, along with his virginity, stayed intact. The whole movie lives and dies on partnerships. My partnership with Sean Levy is one that I'll never take for granted. I can't live without him. My partnership with Hugh Jackman and the trust and history between all three of us is the glue. That's a really cool quote, I think. You can really see all of the insane moves that had to be done. So many Deadpools. And there goes Dogpool running away. Hugh Jackman worked really hard to get this oneer shot just right, and he mentioned how out of breath he got after each take, because I'm sure there were several. Like Ryan said, that was like 6 years he had the vision for this scene. As we come up to the bus, I like the bus driver. He gets so scared and then gets mowed down. So much blood and carnage. We see this Stanley Steamer ad, which includes the year 1922 and an image of Stan Lee fighting crime since 1922. And that was the year Stan Lee was born. Here's his little mini appearance in the film. Iconic jump shot, which Deadpool brings up to the audience, is probably the only thing we're going to ever remember from that. The Raymundo's poster on the back of the bus is a nod to Ray Chan, of course, the art director on this film, and he sadly passed away during the production of this wonderful film. And his contributions are completely unmatched. He is all through it. He completely designed this whole street scene, the TVA, everything about it. And here comes Peter Poole. Completely just not fitting into the suit. And wearing sandals kills me. I do think Peter was a little more funny in Deadpool 2, but still a legend. Samurai Deadpool's got the mini hands, just like in the previous film where the hands have to regenerate for a few minutes. Must have been a really neat thing to be on set for this. No shortage of innuendos. You see that subway terminal sign where the Time Ripper is housed here. If you look up on the sign where it says the Green Line northbound via Lone Pine Mall, there's another reference to Back to the Future, where the Twin Pines Mall becomes the Lone Pine Mall after certain events alter time in that film. So, Lone Pine Mall is not too far from where they're at, apparently. I don't think that makes any logical sense, but it's a neat callback to that film. Ray Chan, of course, nonstop impressive set direction for the film. he did a wonderful job here at making everything look so good, including the Time Ripper, which is mostly practical here. All the little screens and even the wiring, the magical looking elements to the Time Ripper. I'm sure it was incredible to be on set. The little tubes there with the blue and yellow, the white, that's all practical. Sure, there was some enhancements with CGI, but for the most part, it was all on set. So many great moments with Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool here. He's got so many great lines that just constantly hit. They live like cockroaches. Deadpool and Wolverine have a choice to make. Are they going to sacrifice, or are they just going to let their world get pruned? The odds are quite against them, but we'll see what they do. Really, really cool. Two guys that can't die, and they're faced with imminent permanent death. Educated Wish comes back. Oh, he saved his picture. Both so noble. The worst becomes the best. Beautiful. Knocks him out. No Deadpool. All the lines. Because I'm Marvel Jesus. This is all apparently improvised here with the Marvel Jesus and the Spock. All ad-libbing from Ryan. It's so funny how he constantly calls Logan Peanut through the film, if you notice. That's something that Scott Lang calls his daughter in the Ant-Man films. Wonder how it feels to touch those. If you feel like an electric shock or if it's just like fun. I don't know. Kind of tingly. Looks like he needs Logan anyway. He can't reach. Timeline integrity's dropping, but so is that door. Like a Prayer comes back into the score. Rob Simonson worked that into the score. And nice poetic move of Wolverine losing his shirt as he finally takes off the costume and kind of lets go of the things from his past that aren't so nice. The bad memories are being let go, and he's giving up in a selfless act what he thinks is his life. To finish off Who I Am from Les Mis, the Hugh Jackman saying, "Can I conceal myself forevermore, pretend I'm not the man I was before? And must my name, until I die, be no more than an alibi? Must I lie? How can I ever face my fellow men? How can I ever face myself again? My soul belongs to God, I know. I made that bargain long ago. Gave me hope when hope was gone. He gave me strength to journey on. Who am I? Who am I? Jean Valjean, Monsieur le Maire. And so, your honor, you see it's true. This man bears no more guilt than you. Who am I? 24601. Lots of flashbacks from the previous Deadpool films, especially with his loved ones like Vanessa. They considered throwing in more scenes of Wolverine's past from the X-Men films, but since that was a different Wolverine, technically, they only really decided to go with scenes that were previously in this film specifically. It's Bye-Bye to Cassandra. It's interesting here that Deadpool fulfills his role as Marvel Jesus by advocating with the TVA for the redemption of the Fox characters that get left behind and forgotten by the world, and sacrifice himself, help Logan fix his past, and reclaim the world. It's kind of ironic and funny. B-15 from the TVA comes in to shut Paradox down and have a nice little moment with Peter. That mind is full of paradoxes, I'm sure. While trying to dodge blame, he's saying that, they're his friends, but he's really been trying to prune them the whole time. Makes no sense. I guess I was getting ahead of myself a little bit. Deadpool and Wolverine are dead, but no, they're not. Just takes a little bit to get there. Marvel Jesus has risen with a Iris reprise, and it's a wonder to behold. Walking through the sparks. Such a good song. Indestructible indeed. And I hope that you do. Big moment between them. There's actually a deleted scene where they go on a date. The chemistry is inescapable. Scoutmaster Kevin's reference comes back. Of course, he was mentioned in the previous two films, and it's kind of rumored that Scoutmaster Kevin's named after, of course, Kevin Feige. Although I do not have a confirmation for that, don't quote me. And advocates for the forgotten beings of the Fox Marvel Universe. Good man. Such a quick cut to the shawarma. As Deadpool mentions that the Avengers discovered shawarma, they sit outside the little shawarma cafe. It's so funny to see them sitting at the same place the Avengers went to at the end of their first original film. Such a funny way to say that they kind of made it popular and put shawarma on the map a bit. You can even now eat it at Avengers Campus at Disneyland today at Disney's California Adventure. As they sit outside the shawarma place, this is a scene that's a little bit of a nod to Planes, Trains, and Automobiles again, where Steve Martin and John Candy sit outside a hotel. And we've got Miss Aretha Franklin coming in with You're All I Need to Get By. Respect. As we get reintroduced back to Leslie Uggams as Blind Owl. It's cool to mention that Leslie celebrated her 80th birthday during the making of this film. As, of course, he mentions that her name is Althea, kindly, respectfully. And she gets to meet Dogpool. Deadpool is now her father, since Nicepool's kind of out of the picture. As Wade has his final monologue here, he describes that he finds his purpose and he saves the world and ends up with him holding hands with Vanessa here at the end, surrounded by all his loved ones and a couple new ones too. Sometimes the people we save, they save us right back. Very heartwarming. So sweet to see Laura reunited with Logan. Wonder if in the next Deadpool film, Vanessa will finally accept him as being someone that matters. Look out for Feige's Pizza right there in that last shot with the Wolverine and Deadpool masks. It's the Feige's famous pizza box. That's the same place they ordered pizza from in the first Deadpool film at the very beginning. A little bit of a bookend there. I'm sure Ryan Reynolds would have a heart attack at the thought of another Deadpool film, but I certainly hope it's on the horizon. we get a little surprise. Green Day, The Time of Your Life, begins to play as we reminisce about previous Fox films. Rest in pieces, Fox. Fun fact about the 20th Century Fox theme, it was composed by Alfred Newman, and something I didn't realize is there's like a whole family of Newmans that are film composers, and they're all related. There's David Newman, Thomas Newman, Maria Newman, a nephew Randy Newman, all coming from Alfred Newman. All great. Now, Fox Marvel, Disney Marvel, and Sony Marvel are all distinct pieces of the same entity. However, now Fox is owned by Disney, and so all that's left to collect is the Sony. It's almost like trying to find all the Infinity Stones. Soon they'll have a Marvel gauntlet of all the acquisitions, I'm sure. Ryan Reynolds and Sean Levy go back all the way together, a couple films, but they've been with Fox for quite a while. Recently they did Free Guy, and the other one was The Atom Project together. Sean Levy, of course, is very well known for Cheaper by the Dozen and Night at the Museum. Ryan Reynolds, in addition to the Deadpool films, also did X-Men Origins Wolverine. That's where he appeared as Deadpool for the first time in a really awesome scene. Sean Levy and Ryan Reynolds consider each other creative soulmates. From Ryan Reynolds' Facebook, he says, "This isn't just Deadpool saying, 'Oh, hello' to the MCU. It's Deadpool and Hugh, Sean and me saying farewell to a place in an era that literally made us. We are forever grateful to the fun, weird, uneven, and risky world of 20th Century Fox. It was our origin story, and we wouldn't trade it for anything. And thank you to Kevin Feige and Disney for allowing us to share it." He also had a really cool interaction with Green Day as he was asking them about their involvement of using the song. He reached out to them after getting approval after the film was made. He really wanted to thank them for writing that song that appears on the tribute reel here on the credits. So actually, when Ryan Reynolds reached out to them and wanted to thank them, they let Ryan know that the whole band had gotten together and actually had just gone to go see the film about an hour prior in Washington, D.C. And that was a huge sort of pinch me moment for Ryan. It's pretty cool. Now, the Marvel Fox films, let's run through them. There was X-Men in 2000, X2, X-Men United, 2003, Daredevil, 2003, Elektra, 2005, Fantastic Four, 2005, X-Men The Last Stand, 2006, Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer in 2007, X-Men Origins Wolverine in 2009, X-Men First Class, 2011, The Wolverine, 2013, X-Men Days of Future Past in 2014, Fantastic Four, 2015 version, X-Men Apocalypse, 2016, Deadpool, 2016, Logan in 2017, Deadpool 2 in 2018, Dark Phoenix in 2019, and The New Mutants in 2020. Any future 20th Century Fox Marvel characters are now nested underneath the Disney banner. Kevin Feige was actually an associate producer on the first X-Men film, so this is a really cool reunion for he and Hugh Jackman. Deadpool and Wolverine is dedicated, of course, to the memory of Raymond Chan. Ray was our anchor being, according to Ryan Reynolds. His contribution to this film and so many others was a gift which was never taken for granted and will never be forgotten. We will miss you, Ray. And those words appear on the credits. In the credits here, you can see that Nice Pool is credited to being played by Gordon Reynolds, which is a joke from a skit that Ryan Reynolds put out in 2021, where he pretended he had a twin brother named Gordon. Betty Reynolds is in the special thanks as Hugh Jackman's Wrangler. This is Ryan Reynolds' 4-year-old daughter. There's also a dedication to Henry Delaney, who is the child son of Rob Delaney, who passed away in 2018. From Ryan's Facebook, for months of filming and 100 years of editing and post-production, I had a front row seat to Wolverine. Watching and learning from my friend and favorite actor, 2 things can be true. 1, sometimes I eat too much sugar and secretly egg his house so I can feel something. And 2, I can be both a fan and friend simultaneously. I met him in Sydney around 2007. Back then he was already a movie star and I walked onto his set, a supporting actor. Showing up midway through production isn't too dissimilar to starting a new school. I was a nervous mess. Film sets can have a scary imbalance of power, and I remember seeing how he treated every member of the crew with genuine respect and appreciation. He made a case that the term filmmaker isn't just for people with their name on the poster. I don't know anyone more thoughtful and classy than Hugh. He'll do anything for someone he loves. He'll do anything for someone he just met. And Deadpool and Wolverine, Hugh didn't just make dreams come true for fans of Wolverine, he made my dreams come true too. He is the X-Man. Till you're 90. So here we get the full cut of the scene in our post-credits of Johnny Storm's insults to Cassandra. He's got a bit of a dirty mouth. If you look closely too, if you rewind, there's a little hint at Gambit's future as he looks to be in a tiny screen. We see a glimpse of him in the void being picked up by a Marvel Sparkle Circle, which could imply a role in the future. The film closes here, and according to IMDb, there's approximately 118, maybe more or less, uses of the word fuck. Thank you for listening to this commentary. There were some stretches I do feel like were a little bit slow, but overall, I had such a fun time putting this together. Here's a few more legacy thoughts. Director Sean Levy felt that he had a real brotherhood with Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman on this film, and I think that's very apparent. You can really feel that and see how closely they worked together. This film was very successful and beat out Joker 2019 as the highest grossing R-rated film of all time. Deadpool and Wolverine was intended to be a self-contained story that doesn't service any other Marvel film directly, and Marvel Studios gave the crew the ability to do that, to tell a story that has its own story with a unique ending, and doesn't necessarily have to start leaning into whatever's next, but hopefully there is something next. I really do hope that they play with Deadpool and Wolverine a little more. Because, of course, why is Thor crying? Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this audio commentary. I really appreciate your watch time, your likes, and subscriptions, and I really hope you have a wonderful day. Talk to you later in the next commentary. Bye.